La moda per me è quello che uno porta addosso volentieri. La moda per me che la faccio invece è un lavoro e quindi viene vissuta così, con grande impegno, con grande costanza, così come tutti i lavori che vengono fatti.
So there are 2,000 garments here,
Yes,
and this is still the smallest archive.
absolutely. We have in CP Company, we have another archive of 20,000 pieces, and my father itself arrived to collect almost 40,000. They started to collect especially military wear and workwear back in the 70s. It has to do with the way my father was used to work. Since he didn't have real a know-how about apparel or about designing and shapes and things, he came up with a very, let's say, instinctive, practical way of working that was taking part of some garments and stitching, and not even stitching, literally xerocopying, photocopying, and pin it on another one. So this is an example, actually, this is a real example from him. It's an anorak, a military anorak. It's great, it's super uncomfortable. You don't have a zip, you have to pull it from the top. So definitely you need a zip. He copied a zip from some other garments and just pin it on it. Same for the pockets. He wanted a different pocket with this stripe. And he was creating this kind of, I would say Frankenstein, because they're really a mix of things. What is interesting is that this was really just a simple and practical way of solving a problem. And I don't know how to draw it, I do like this. But the implication he had, they were much, much broader and important. I'm not a theoric of fashion, so forgive me if not too precise or accurate, but talking with other people like Andrew Grooves, professor at the Westminster University, and other more prepared than me, they told me that, well, when my father started to do this, it actually create garments that were not fitting anymore into categories. No, before you had an anorak was for a specific purpose, or a hunting jacket for another one, a ski jacket for another one. When you start to take pieces from one and put into the other, what do you create? What it is? They say, not me, they say that this is how sportswear, as we meant today, not technical sportswear, like the casual wear, as born. Because our garments that are flexible in their usage, you can put over a blazer, or you can put it to take a walk on Sunday. They don't have a specific function anymore, and they're kind of mix. And what I think, this is my consideration, what I think is also interesting, each of these still, by the way, he was looking at military wear and workwear because he said, in that garment, nothing is there for pure aesthetic. Everything has a function, every detail is for a reason. So when you take these elements and put in something new, I think they have a kind of evocative power. So there is some shape, some maybe archetype or some detail that remind you to the origin of that detail. They don't really, it's not useful anymore. You don't use them anymore for the original function, but they kind of echo that. And I think this is something that unintentionally my father, was actually a very powerful thing that he had. This ability of his garments, they have a kind of a halo thing, no? Something that you don't really explain with word rational. And I think it came from the inspiration.
But he definitely had a vocabulary. Like, there are some things that he keeps going back to, like leather patches.
Yes.
Leather patches with the gun patch. These are like archetypes that he always returns to. And because these things are very powerful, I think, because like you say, right, it has this heritage, there has this provenance of 100,000 years of masculinity, of hunting, of all these things. And by putting that on a modern jacket, you get a little bit of that DNA,
exactly.
right?
Exactly. And I don't know how much that process was conscious, honestly, or I think it was mainly instinctive. But starting 20 years later, 30 years later, looking back, we can see, as you said, that he has a vocabulary, he has elements that were recurring, and I think, yes, they had this kind of evocative power. This method is what leads to building to archive, because you, if you're not able to sorry, I put it this way, but I think it's honest. If you don't have the mental tool to imagine things from zero and you need reference and example to take piece off, you need the reference and examples. You need garments, okay?
And you need it at arm's reach.
Exactly. So you start to collect. So they at the beginning, the very first place, it's actually in Bologna, very close by. There is the Montagnola, was it's still here. It's a place where Saturday and Sunday they brought some military surplus or vintage things from pieces from US.
It's like the market.
Yeah, it's a flea market. Literally, it's a flea market. A part is really just new things, and some part was this military vintage. So they start to buy there, but it's very small. The second spot was London. London was a lot. There was a lot of flea markets, and pieces that now are extremely rare and expensive was very easy to get. Nobody wanted. Nobody was collecting military things.
But this is crazy. Like, I was looking earlier, the stuff that's in here, yeah. There's a German flag here. There's a Chinese military garment. There's the US Army.
Yeah, it was very easy. The main source were U.S. military because there was a very big surplus place in Livorno in Italy.
Yeah.
It was not old. That was actual surplus from the 60s and the 70s.
So like the current military surplus, right?
The one that we're not using were sold in bulk and you bought it. Actually, there was people doing some kind of business, taking them and over-dyeing and sell it as kind of new. But the old things, were coming mainly from London and then secondly to New York. So at the beginning was my dad here in Bologna and the first trips, and then he was always super busy. He really trusts my mother taste. So he was not even briefing my mother, just saying, anything that gets your attention, buy it. Right. Like no budget limits, was not expensive things, honestly. They were easy. You can't get back with bag full of garments for
so your
small
mom
money.
Assembled most of this archive, you think?
Yes, they bought it. Him, her, and then after a while, when the business grew, they had 6 collections a year. They had to have a lot of inspiration. He had to become more systematic. So he had a team of 2-3 people traveling all the time and searching, because also in time became more and more difficult to get good things, and you have to travel more and you get back less. So to be consistent. So now we just have a very, very small part that has basically been rebuilt, because the most of that has been sold and now it sits in China, in the China Design Museum.
Right.
There is all the original archive of my father. That is almost, I think, 30,000 pieces.
So after he makes this, who looks after making it into a garment?
They're all a team of people, very skilled, that who know the job, and they were doing from here technical drawing. But actually, drawing was just a part, because one thing is design, and honestly, on my father is I won't say the most simple thing, but it's quite simple. And then there was the fabric, and then there was the dyeing specification. So
how long would it take him to do this collage?
To be honest, I don't know, because I wasn't there. When I was a kid, I was used to spend time in his office, but he was really always very focused. He was not paying us attention, so I was just, I don't know, messing around.
Yeah.
But I was a kid, so I don't have this this memory. I think it's also difficult to say, because they were doing a lot of things. So imagine that. At the peak, they were doing 3 brands, CP Company, Bonneville, and Stone Island, 2 collections each.
Yeah.
So I would say maybe just throwing some number from 600 to 1,000 style a year. So I think you have to be quick in a way. And then of course he was experienced, so I think probably he refined the process throughout the years.
So he assembles this garment, or he assembles.
He starts from
the
base.
plan.
He finds something that is a base.
So he takes from history, really. Tries to make something new out of history, but then tell me about the dye, because he's most famous for color.
Yeah.
Most famous for fabric.
Exactly. so I think the bottom line is it always wanted to do something different from anything that was around. If found something, he was not doing it. If someone was doing something that he really liked, but he already did it, he will not even try. He was also trying not to get influenced by what was around. He was not traveling. My mother told me he never stepped into an apparel store in his life. Never, ever. He always designed his own things and always stayed in his place. He didn't want really to be influenced by the trends. But willing to do something that was not there. So design-wise, he developed this method, and mixing up, he was doing something that was not never been seen before. Even if he was playing with archetypes, of course, because menswear has archetypes, that was hybridized with other elements. Then, of course, the industry works from fabric point of view. The industry works that there is fabric fair. You go to the fabric fair, you select the fabric, and then you ask for sample, do your prototype, and develop your collection out of that. My father was never buying fabric as they are. So one funny story that I just learned recently is that when he got a bit more popular, everybody was looking at him, try to guess what Massimo Osti is working on. So when he was at fabric fair, he got the supplier, showing the fabric, and he was putting in two piles. Okay, this is the one I don't like, this is the one I like. And when they end up and they left, okay, they took the one discarded. Okay, this is the actual selection. So no, but again, even if it's that, I will never use them like this. So they started to transform the fabric.
Yes.
Transformation of the fabric was another super big thing, very complicated, very unique, because none of them, no other brands were doing that, because it's another set of skill. It's really about fabric skill and fabric transformation skill. Of course, he was acknowledged about that. He learned on the field, but he was supported by great partners like ITS, Artea. Adriano Caccia, a great guy who disappeared a few months ago, was his right hand on all the fabric transformation. And ITS was mainly a fabric transformation. So the idea is the base often was quality, but not expensive one. Okay, it must be affordable because he has to bear the cost of transformation. Then from that could be bonding with something else, could be spalmare, I don't know the English word, sorry, okay, put a coating on that,
right?
Something like that. Could be printing, printing also flat. Another technique to transform the face of the fabric was to print silk print, but full, with no graphic, just plain color.
Right.
Okay, became a bit harder. Then when you wash it, it kind of crack.
Yeah.
And you get an effect. Or dyeing. Dyeing, so all this fabric transformation was done mainly by this partner. So starting from the base, he was putting rubber on wool, on wax, on linen to do the kind of adding some performance to natural fabric, or many ways of transforming. Then, that was not enough anymore. That usually it's just the base and then is dyed. Because one of the things that he mastered and actually made it stand down from also visual point of view, even if it has an industrial need at the beginning, at the base, is garment dye. So the procedure of dyeing a garment after it's fully finished.
Something like this
is a good example.
There's a green lining.
Yeah.
There's a green facing, there's a green inner facing, and then you've got the trims and you've got the binding that's all green. This is a green jacket.
Yeah.
But there are different types of green. How do you make this?
Exactly. Every you see there is all different tone of greens, but they actually dialogue very well together. So from industrial point of view, and that was looking new. He wanted some kind of a pattern on it, some looking a bit use and hold.
I mean, like there's this.
I think
there's this. This is his early work.
Yeah, that's a perfect example of this idea of making something doesn't look new, even if it's new, even if it's a very simple technique because it's silk print. But if you use right, if you use the, let's do this, if you use the right face of the fabric, that is this.
So this is a
For
print
him-
of cigarettes or something. This
Yes,
is like
yes.
pop art from the late.
Yeah, I think this is should be late 70s.
Late
But definitely
70s.
pop art inspired. You're right. Very simple print, nothing special. But he used it on the reverse part because
So he deliberately uses it
Yeah.
inside out.
yeah, you still see the drawing, but it's not so plain color. You know, I think what I really like is that it's not plain. Here you see the texture of the fabric through the silk print coming out. No.
So from the start, he has this preference for things that do not look new.
Exactly.
And that
100%.
translates further into this.
At the beginning was when you dye it, it kind of look somehow more aged. Okay. Oh, by the way, I don't know how much all of this was deliberate from the beginning, from the conceptual to the practical.
Right.
And how much was actually happening just trying.
And then
And
he
then say,
developed a
okay,
preference.
you know what? I like this because it looks old. Maybe it was not meant, because at the beginning, honestly, garment dyeing is mainly pursued for industrial reason. Yeah.
So this is all dyed together.
Yes. First, they sew the garment in white, and then they put in a bath and came out like this. Originally, the garment dyeing was born for industrial reason. My father wanted to create a sophisticated tone effects and have all this color, and was not possible to buy to get the minimum for each fabric, because the main fabric you maybe consume 3 meters and it's okay, you can get to the minimum. But think about this one, okay, that is used just here and just here, or that to refine the stitches. You cannot buy the minimum for each color. That's why most of the brands have the inlay that is black and the details are black.
Yeah.
Okay, that makes a lot of sense. Or they offer a quite limited range of color. My father wanted to offer many color. And also that way was industrially very savvy. Consider my father started the company from scratch, so he didn't have a background, but he learned all the industrial part. Okay, so so the idea is, okay, we buy kind of a basic white fabric base ready to dye. Then we treat them. Here this is a kind of a polyurethane probably coating to make it waterproof, or we bond with something else, and then we dye. The good thing is the base can be used in many ways, transform it in so many ways that you can buy a lot of it and get a very good price. And then the face can really change depending how you treat it, how you wash it, how you bond, how you spalmi. I never remember this English word, I'm sorry. And then the garment dye comes. But the complexity of garment dye is, when you dye, the thread and the weft shrink in a different percentage.
Yeah.
Okay, so first thing is you have to consider this. When you build the garments, maybe this will shrink 10%, maybe this will shrink 2%. So you have to build it with this as 8% loose, because when you're gonna shrink, you're gonna hopefully go back in place. And then when you place on the fabric, you have to consider the orientation, because shrinkage is different in the two directions.
Right.
So you can imagine the complexity and the amount of mistakes that can occur. Simply, you buy this roll of basic fabric ready to dye, and maybe they declare, you test it, maybe you test one, and then the second roll is actually another wave of production, and the shrinkage is different. So if you discover this after you build the garment, you sew the garment, you dye, and came out wrong, well, you throw away everything. So it was a very complicated process.
It's already expensive as well, doing this, and then you have a lot of failures within the same batch. That makes it quite really expensive to do.
Yes, it was. The R&D and all this was very expensive, and that was the reason why these garments were pretty expensive, even at that time. But my father was so much in love because the effect he could create was really unique and nobody else could do it. So could get there. So was really becoming kind of a unique selling proposition of CP, With garment dyeing, you want these sophisticated tones, you get only from us. And this is an example. It's one bath, different material on a green. But then they brought it next level. Next level is
What is the next level?
They discovered that if you put, let's say, blue and red, but the blue is meant for wool and nylon, I think it's like this. I'm not super technical. And the blue, the red is for that, and the blue is for the cotton. You put them together in the same bath. What you see is purple.
Yeah.
But actually, if you put a garment, it doesn't come out purple, come out blue and red, depending on the composition of the fabric. Okay, so that would save one passage. You can achieve a multiple color garment with just one bath. But again, complexity rise. So they come up with a, I think here, these are a good example. Okay, let's take this. Okay, this is coming out from one single bath. Okay, so if it's cotton, it's kind of this, let's say, how do you say, it's a blue, green blue, it's something like this.
Yeah.
And then for synthetic, there is this kind of purple. And then you have a fabric that, look here, you see on the thread, you have a part of synthetic, maybe it's a 20%. So it gets slightly more violet than this one. Oh look, this is weaved in a way that one face, the nylon get on one face and the cotton on the other, so the fabric is two color. And this is similar, but with a different effects. Similar for that, and then we go, maybe we have, that's a 100% synthetic, but with a coating. But the coating is synthetic too, so take another color. So all this is from one single bath, all different color. And then, starting from that, they were choosing, okay, I want to do this in this color, so maybe the inlay, I choose this, and then the color, I choose this that will become like this, and the details in that. But the garment is white. You dye it and it come out with all this tone.
But it's very interesting, the skill set, because this is collage,
Yes.
but this is also collage of color.
Yes. I never thought this way, but it's true.
It's very interesting how, like, that's the way his brain works.
I think I never thought to that before. So, but I want to see it's really maybe putting different things together was a way of sophisticating the garments.
Yeah.
Maybe at that time was quite plain because again, I see the same. This, for example, no, this is again something totally different. This is early CP company kids, but we have similar model. Again, if you think about it, this is not garment dyed, but has a leather, a fake fur, another inlay, this, and another fabric there. Again, the aesthetic effect come out from putting many elements
Yes.
in an harmonic way, but
Yes.
putting many elements together. So maybe that could be a kind of a common ground of that put these three technique, on kind of a same pattern.
Kind of like mash up collage or curation of various elements becomes then a design language of CP company.
It definitely is. What I think that maybe my father was good at, I'd say maybe because again I was not there, is to manage this complexity by imagining what can be the final result.
Yeah.
Because already with garment dye it's very difficult. But when you start to say, okay, I want this in leather and this in the other fabric and this dye, whatever, I think he was very clear in his mind the final effects. So that allowed him to manage such a complexity without losing a lot of time.
I'm still starting my own design journey personally, but I look at this thing and you show anyone, oh, that's a green jacket. This is so hard to do.
It still takes something.
It is so hard to do because you're obviously doing you're managing design, that's one layer, but then you're also managing construction with different fabrics. But then you are doing garment dye, so that's material science, that's chemicals, that's dye effects. But then it loops back into pattern making because mathematically this doesn't shrink, this shrinks, and you have to match all these things together in one garment. No one is doing this. And certainly no one is doing this in the 1970s, 1980s. And I can understand why they wouldn't do it because it's so hard.
It's very complicated, but I tell you something. I'm working on a project of foundation because I want to teach this method. Because reality it's true, it's very complicated, and it's mastered by very few people that all came from the same company that my father founded back in '71. No one else outside of that specific experience has mastered that technique. So my fear is that this can be somehow this burden. So I'm putting together technicians, people who work in that industry, and I want to teach to designer, a new generation of designer, to work that way, to work with archive, to do Frankenstein collecting pieces, to master garment dyeing and complex garment dyeing, because I think there is a real risk that all this is dispersed, and in 10, 20 years' time, nobody knows how to do it anymore.
But it's a very usual attitude, right? Because, in modern fashion business or modern business, they would say that's IP. That's protected things. Why would you ever want to teach a new generation of people that will just copy your stuff?
Yeah, it's you can see this from different angle. To me, yeah, I mean, I manage business, I manage the brand, but the legacy of my father, it's the most important thing. So managing the brand fell into that. I want to be sure that CP is something he would be proud of if you see today. So that's extremely important. It's true, people can copy, but I think that I don't really believe in protecting this kind of idea. I believe more in stay one step ahead of the competition. Because if you do something, you protect it. Also, you sit down. Oh, it's there. This is my garden. This is my tool. It's only mine. You always end up to do the same. If it's open up, and people can, because they can always pick it up. I mean, they can study. Maybe it takes 1 year more, 2 years more. But someone is really determined to make this happen. He can do it. I'm fine to open this knowledge, and I will try to always stay one step ahead with R&D.
You're already innovating on something else.
At the end of the day, if you think about it, we still use it today, but this is a 30, 40 years old technology. Not many people will do it anyway because it's complicated, it's costly, and it's a headache. But I'm more afraid that it will disappear. And we go more to a more standardized way of making garments, or artisanal, but artisanal is another way. Here is a mix of industrial and artisanal.
Yes.
Yeah.
Let's take a look at double-dyed garments. I'm very curious.
That's to me, it's a perfect example because the garment itself is extremely simple. Okay, this is a puffer, is a goose down.
So is this an orange jacket or is this a green jacket? That's the
I would say kind of both. If you take from the outside, this side 100% is a green with some orange detail. What to me, what is strong to me is the contrast is so strong. It's not a tone-to-tone effect. It's really like strong orange and a military green, something like that, a khaki, a military green.
And this was dyed together?
Yes, this is built white, put in a bath, and come out with such a different color. But then, if you use the other side of the garment, you see kind of both this.
This is kind of more orange.
Yes, this if is si dice, we say cangiante in Italian. I don't know the exact name. So depending on the light, you can see the orange or you can see the green. It's because the thread and the weft, correct, are cotton and nylon. One is dyed orange, the other is dyed green. But can you imagine that you put something in a washing machine that is white and come out this way? To me, it's still...
It's magic.
Magic, right? Yes.
It's just crazy. It's like, it looks almost iridescent, like you can...
Yes.
It's like a hologram.
Yes. They were playing a lot with that. combining the different percentage of synthetic and natural fabric with the double dyeing, you can really achieve unusual effects. Sometimes it changes from the side of the fabric. Sometimes it change. It's more consistent between the two, but changing one percentage make a very different frame from one version of a fabric to the other. Yeah, I tell you, still today, I visit some factories in Asia.
Yeah.
I explained that we want to do this, and they insisted, no, it's not possible. And I said, no, I tell you, it's possible, and it's also quite some time we're doing it, so we're sure about it. Yes, I don't know how they discover if it's been by chance or not, but there is one thing that I think is important to mention. My father knew that most of his interesting innovation came out from mistake, from something was not planned. Okay, so, and I think this can happen like this. So you dye and you discover, oh, you know what? Orange pigment for wool and nylon actually doesn't affect cotton at all, and vice versa. So when they developed the dyeing lab and all the dyeing procedure, this I remember, I saw in an interview, or he told me, but I remember he saying that. He said, I need to find a system that can produce mistake on a kind of a regular basis, because I have to do 6 collections a year.
Yes.
At that time he had CP, Bonneville and Stone Island twice a year. And I said, I need mistakes to innovate, but I cannot just wait something to happen. I cannot. I have a schedule. So they come up with a system where they were sampling fabrics, do all the tests, and then dyeing all this in all possible ways. Some of them already knowing that would not work, that were wrong, chemically wrong, not meant for that, but they were going to do it anyway. Because sometime, for some reason, something that you didn't consider, come out an effect that was really original. Nobody was, of course, doing that, and they built something out of that.
Wild. Really wild.
Well, there is something else I want to talk about if you want. I know it's a lot,
How
but
many
no.
levels can we go?
No. This is less technical, but okay, all this.
Yeah.
This process, this one. Okay. I spent a lot of time trying to understand. Okay, just to be clear, I've never been involved in my father's work.
Yeah.
Okay? I'm not a designer. I know nothing. He never pushed us to work with him, or actually it was basically excluding us from his working. Working life was a bubble, totally.
Separate.
Okay, yeah. Yeah, and then for other people, no. But for us, the family, we were totally outside. So when he passed away in 2005, and he inherited all these things, and we built the archive, and then we wrote the book. The book has been a massive work. You cannot imagine. We had no clue. When you read the book, you got the book, and I was very flattered to see that you had it. And I think it made quite sense. Now there is the design part, there is the fabric innovation part, there is the procedure. Everything is kind of schematic.
Yes.
Okay, but when he passed away, he left the office like he was out for lunch break. Okay, and we walk in knowing zero about fabrics, about how garment dyeing, anything. So rebuilding everything has been extremely complicated. Long story short, I spend a lot of time, me and my family, we spend a lot of time in trying to understand my father's work. And we also try to do it in putting in a context, because all these people, like my dad, creative people who are considered kind of groundbreaking or changing, no, something strong in the industry, they grow in a context, in a cultural context, a social context. Okay, and Bologna, I think Bologna at that time was a very specific and meaningful, not meaningful, was a very peculiar moment in history, for at least for Italy. So just to give you some context, Bologna is the only city in Italy always being left-winged all time, from the first election after the war, after we choose republic over monarchy, to now. Okay, actually just one for 3 years in 70 years. So it's Very progressive city, very open-minded. And then is open-minded because is a kind of is a node, okay? There is a lot from north, to go from north to south of Italy, you pass to Bologna. East to west, you pass to Bologna. Everything goes here, so very open-minded. By the way, this is not relevant here, but I'm very proud. I want to say, I want to tell this. Bologna has been the first place in the world to ban slavery in 13th century. So nobody can own another human being.
Right.
Okay, just to give you the context of really being progressive city. And then it's a university city. We host the most ancient westward university, dated back in 1088 after Christ. That brought other people from all over the world. So a big melting pot. This has been a long history, getting to the 70s. 1670s has been a very important moment in history for the changing of society worldwide. No? All the generation grown up in the 60s and 70s was against the previous one. Was really the idea of putting the war and all that word aside and starting a new world. There was a lot of idealism. No? There was the hippie culture. There was political movements. Also, Bologna was very political. Having a lot of students. Imagine that still today we have 80,000 students, over 360 inhabitants. So 1 out of 4 is a student, and most of them, they come from abroad. So a lot of young people in that time were the youngest were rebelling or trying to be rebellious against the previous generation. That brought a lot of cultural ferment. I don't know if this is the right word. It's a literal translation from Italian, sorry. But anyway, it's been founded faculty at universities called DAMS. It's discipline dell'arte, art, music, and theater, and show. That's basically theater. And cinema. Why that was important? Because art study are old as history, but they're very vertical. You want to learn paint, you go to a paint school, you study paint for 10 years and then master that. Music, similar. Here there was the first art school that was mixing all art together, okay? So people who came here to paint, discover music, and I said, well, I want to try. There's been an exhibition 2 years ago, it was called Dilettanti Geniali, means, say not rookie, like how you say?
Amateur.
Amateur, okay. Genius amateur. There was this idea that everything was possible. It was a generational thing because of that 60-70 move, and because of this mix of different art. Here in Bologna in the 70s, seems that everything was possible. And people was trying everything, even if they had no background.
Right.
There was a strong, I remember there was a quote from someone who said, I'm not able to play guitar, but I play guitar. What's the point? I do it. I want to do it, I do it. Okay, that was the kind of attitude.
Multidisciplinary, a lot of artistic freedom.
Yes, and this idea that everything was possible. If you try, anyway, that you were allowed to do it and to try. Nobody will judge you,
Right.
okay? I think this is very significant because here, everything I see 30 years, 40 years later, was totally new. It was invented there. And his power, the power of this invention was that really were not coded, and it came out because someone didn't came with a mindset or with an idea of what is possible, is not possible. It was just, okay, let's try, let's do it. Let's see what happens, okay? And still today, 40 years, 50 years later, I believe that the richness of this brand is coming from there.
It's very Bologna. It's
very much from here. Yeah, it was very much from here.
That kind of culture that gives a graphic designer with no real background in fashion the license or the confidence to design clothes, but to become a chemist, to become a pattern maker, and to do things that the world has never seen. And I think not only has the world never seen it since in the 1970s, this is still a unique design. But it blows my mind that in the 1970s, this would have been crazy.
I agree with you, and I would have loved to be there to see how different all this was at that time. Because imagine, it's still mind blowing, but vintage look is everywhere. There is real vintage trend, and there is aging technique developed from everywhere, for denim, for any kind of fabric, not just to look old. But that was not there at the time. So the contrast was much stronger.
Yes.
See? Of course, garment dyeing was not there, so all the fabric, the color were plain, and the fabric were stiff. So I think at the time, really, it was very, very different from anything else that was to the market at that time.
And it's quite subversive because I think in 1970s, Italian culture is to look perfect and to look new, right?
Exactly. The title of the permanent exhibition at the China Design Museum is called Subversion and Reshaping. And they came up with that title, and I think it's very on point.
What does subversion look like in 2025?
That's a very difficult question.
Because I don't think we know. Now. We
No.
can only know in retrospect.
That's my point. For example, CP Company, I've noticed that CP Company has worked in a few moments in its history. Working very well, being extremely successful in few moments. And all these moments has to do with understanding what was going on in the society and reflecting part of that in the garments, like Bologna in the 70s, like the Moreno Ferrari work ahead of 2000, and something is happening also now. But honestly, it's easy to understand what happened 20 or 40 years ago. I cannot understand what's happening now. Maybe in 10 years' time, looking back, it will be more easy to understand.
I think the present is always confusing, isn't it?
Yes. I think where you are in the present, you don't have the perspective. When you look back, you have the perspective. You see the evolution of things, and you can place yourself. When you are in the middle, you are in the middle. I think there is something that has to do with challenging the status quo. That is something, if you don't do this, for sure you will not innovate, and even in 10 years' time, you will be irrelevant. But is challenging the status quo, and at the same time is understanding, because your challenge should not just be challenging for the sake of challenge. Not to be, I do it differently because I like to do it differently. You have to do it differently in a way that is meaningful for the people today. I tell you, it's not to that extent. I'm not pretending it's to that extent. But we launched a new brand together with CP companies called Massimo Osti Studio. Okay, it's niche, it's small, it's kind of represent the most advanced technology we develop in our R&D departments. But it's also, to me, it's a kind of playground, experimental playground. Not only from product point of view, for sure, but also culturally and in terms of dynamic of the brand. For example, we are trying to challenge the classical distribution setup. It's not easy, not always successful, but we're trying. And I'm also trying to do something that is consciously relevant. It's not by chance that vintage gets so strong. Okay, because I want something special. I want something that I go to search for it. I do an effort to get it. Nobody else had it because it's from 20 years ago, 10 years ago, because it has this story, and help me to define. It has a story itself, and part of that story, I get it. Okay, so I see the surge of secondhand and vintage, but also of brand that has this kind of heritage, historical and R&D and inner qualities. Okay, something that it needs an effort to be understood. It needs an effort to be appreciated. But when you get it, you really get a value. It's not a commodity anymore. It's something special. So I think today people is looking at something for that. We are trying to work with the Massimo Osti Studio in that direction. So we have two things. We have very experimental pieces, and this is actually yet another trend that I think I'm seeing, but I may be wrong. Young people is also very sensitive to environmental issue, and that is a very good thing. Fast fashion, we know it's a disaster from that point of view. They know that. So there is the trend of building their own wardrobe, meaning that selecting few items that are bought with some thoughts and they're meant to last, instead of compulsive buying of something that you put it twice and then you throw it away or you leave in the wardrobe forever. Okay, so I hope that we are working in the direction and doing something that hopefully can be relevant for today people, young people, and maybe in 10 years' time we will look back and we will see if we get it or not.
There's your father, and then there's CP Company, Stone Island, Bonneville. Why are there three brands?
So at the beginning was Chester Perry, my first father brand, basically. Actually, it was not a real first. The first one was Chomp Chomp, but was a very short parenthesis. 1978, they started to be successful, sell abroad. They got a lawsuit from Fred Perry and Chester Berry, claiming that the name was too similar. They were very panicked because 8 years of building a brand, and then someone tell you that you can not use it anymore.
Yeah.
You can imagine. Okay, my father said, okay, let's do a rebranding. We keep the initial CP and we call it CP Company. Right. It was a very sophisticated and smart way of handling the transition. So the first artwork were the same, but just replaced the name Chester Perry with CP Company. And that actually was the first time my father's name appeared smaller, and the small tagline is called Ideas from Massimo Osti. Because my father was very shy, always hide himself behind a brand name instead of using his name as all the designer at that time. Then, 1981, very successful. They start to be copied. All this innovation start to be copied. And so that was a request from the head of sales, was saying, hey, why we let other people copy us? Let's copy ourselves. And so they decided to make a second brand. The idea was CP Company is doing so much innovation that after 1 or 2 years, we're not using it anymore because we need to move forward, but it's still good. And even cheaper than before because it's industrialized, it's learned. So Bonneville was a kind of a second line of CP Company, basically. A bit more sporty sometime, but was collecting the R&D after a couple of years. Then 1982, Stone Island. Stone Island is born from one specific need that was finding the right container framework for one fabric that my father fell in love with. He called it La Stella. Basically, he fell in love with the truck cover that was faded by the sun, and he wanted to replicate that kind of a sun effect. Okay. They put this fabric into CP Company first. Is a cotton canvas. One wash it was fading out, so was creating this kind of a aged effect. He really liked it. But I've been told that it was an epic fail in CP Company because at the end of the season, everybody who bought it brought it back. He said, I spent so much and I washed it twice and look how it's now. And my father said, oh, yeah, but actually that was the idea, that it ages with you. But he understood CP Company was not a right framework, like brand to hold this, and create the Stone Island just for that. Then they found themselves with 3 brands. So I think they start to be a bit more strategic in segmenting. Okay, so Stone Island was a bit difficult at the beginning, but became very strong. Getting back to the cultural relevance and the context, CP is in Bologna in the 70s, Stone Island is in the 80s. The 80s very different from the 70s, you know? The boom, the money coming after the, what it was, the petroleum crisis in 77, 78, and remember? So that brand, I think at that time, was more relevant for that specific decades than CP. CP was still very strong because built an audience that was very loyal and continued to grow, but Stone Island really was the thing right at that time. Bonneville, at this point, was sitting in the middle and was getting the from both brands what was left behind after 1-2 seasons. Okay, so if you check the historical catalog, the identity of Bonneville, it's really sits a bit in between of the two. And of course they had to differentiate the two brands. So everything that was more visually strong, in a way young, powerful, was fitting better in Stone Island. What was more sophisticated for a bit more mature audience was sitting in CP. That's when CP started to get all this kind of a earth tone and all this Ariana, a bit more, let's say, classic menswear archetype.
Yep.
Always military and workwear inspired, but yeah, more like things that you can wear forever. And Stone was more strong, in your face, innovative, the ice jacket, the changing color with the temperature, reflective jacket, fabric, all these were very fitting for Stone. And until the brand were under the same roof, that segmentation went on. At a certain point, one have been sold, took another path, and now two different brands. And I think now they start to get a bit more similar again, in a way. Because the DNA of my father is still there.
That's right.
Even if it's handled very well from other people, not us, but definitely very well. I still see this kind of roots,
DNA.
yeah, common DNA.